The top four cryptocurrency assets is the topic of today as we go over Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. And I'll just kind of say it right off the bat here. The big boar has arrived, I do believe. And I'm not talking about a damn pig. I'm talking about this market getting quite boring, at least compared to what we have been used to since, I guess November began. But other than that, I should let you know that there's still a couple days left to get the sale prices for any one of our programs or services, which you can find a link to in the teachable description below with the code 2025. Literally the number is 2025. And as I've already announced, Quant Prime now has an AI assistant. It is in beta format, and I have released a beta format of an assistant for the Trade Like a Quant service as well. So if you're looking for basically kind of like a pocket mentor or just someone to walk you through things and explain it in perhaps another venue, make it easier to understand, that is the purpose of these little AI chat companions, let's call them. Anyways, we'll start it off over here with XRP, because XRP, for all the hate and whatever it gets, is technically speaking in the not most, but it is in the more strong position than any of the other big top currency coins. Again, Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin is the sort of cohort that we're looking at right here. But as far as XRP goes, there are a few things of significant interest that do suggest what is very likely to happen over this next, I would say, 2 to 3 week period, bringing us into the end of, especially, I guess, January. Yeah, January is the month that we're in. So yeah, the end of January will be the next 3 weeks. And that is this. When we go over here and go to our higher term timeframes, 5-day, weekly, we see that volatility is cooling off. It is coming off of these extreme conditions, but that is naturally going to take time to reset. And of course, it doesn't necessarily need to reset all the way back down towards, 20 percentile or anything like that. But I would like to see it a little bit closer to 50 percentile before I consider any sort of potential for a major continuation of this current move, which, is still set up in a positive direction for what it's worth, which is a lot, at least in my experience. XRP, does have an uptrend here in a way that many of the other top ones do not, actually. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about, your higher term time frame trend, your 5-day, your weekly. This one's still putting in higher highs and higher lows. And of course, that last most important higher low was coming in right here at about $2, which I'll just circle. Oh, I guess I already circled it off right there. But yep, that's the one. And very, 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 very likely this one will actually resolve to the upside as long as XRP remains above this pivot right here. So that's kind of like the line in the sand. Of course, that is going to be on a closing basis, but this can take some time to shake itself out sideways. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, another test towards the bottom side of this range here. Maybe not all the way down to $2, but, somewhere around 210, 215 certainly wouldn't be out of the question sometime in the next few weeks. And probably a test to the top side of this range as well, which is about $2.50. But as long as prices between there is neither a breakout nor a breakdown, the uptrend on the higher term timeframes remains intact, which means that a long-term bullish bias is still, at least in the way that I look at things, more appropriate than not. Of course, at some point it's going to, it will reverse and that condition will not hold true. But until then, it's better to bet on trend continuation than not. It's just, I think you're going to be waiting around for a while, because not only is the 5-day time frame coming off of extreme volatility right here, but so is the daily. The daily hit extremes double times in November and December, and still hasn't even come down to 50 percentile. Even in the last 2 to 3 weeks, despite this one already kind of entering into a very obvious sideways range right here. Now, if we are looking at ranges and range plays, if big if statement right here, but if XRP were to reclaim the 4th of January's high at about 250 on a daily closing basis and nothing less than that, I would be looking for another retest somewhere around 275 to $3. Maybe things set up for an actual breakout from there, on that move. But ultimately, I am going to generally be looking for this one to continue on with the sideways dance. But even on the daily right here, I mean, if XRP this next week, very importantly, reclaims that $2.50 number, I mean, that's going to make the daily look like it's putting in a higher low, or it would confirm a higher low here on the daily. And yeah, very likely to retest back up to 270, 275, maybe even $3. And from there, you know, maybe you do get the actual major massive breakout. But other than that, we should go ahead and check out our stochastic momentum for this one. It is actually rather interesting because I guess there is a chance that we might see continuation in the short term here. I think it's a little bit less likely, but if this condition were met, I suppose that would be, the first step towards a possible continuation in the very short term. And that would be the 5-day time frame remaining above this stochastic momentum pivot, which is 236.5. Of course, we just closed a 5-day last night, so this one won't close until, I guess, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around Wednesday. But of course, if XRP is above that number, which right now it's actually a couple cents below, then I suppose at least a test towards the top side of the range, probably you get that 275 test or something like that, with potential for a breakout. But I'd still err on the side of caution, honestly, for the next few weeks, at least, for just more or less looking for sideways price action. And, you know, at some point, probably get another test towards the bottom side of the range, but that's probably going to be a higher low. I'm just not bearish on XRP as long as you're above $2 on, you know, a higher term time frame closing basis. So, you know, as long as that condition is met, XRP remains in a pretty powerful position, just, you know, going to take its time here. Anyways, moving on, we have Ethereum. Ethereum is not the strongest of the big four, if you want to call it that. But let me just reference my notes right here. Yeah. So going on to the weekly and continuing on with this thread of analysis, you know, Ethereum is more or less forming a range right here, similar to XRP in that both are ranging on the higher term timeframes. But as you can see with Ethereum compared to XRP, I mean, it's nowhere near the top side of its range. Despite that, however, we do see a range between about, let's call it 31 to the downside, 3,100 to the downside, I should say, versus this past week's high to the upside, which was 37.50. Of course, after testing the range high, you're probably going to come down, test the range low. We've seen pretty damn close to that already on this week's low. Don't think Ethereum's going to be breaking down right here or anything like that. But again, if you're bullish, you're looking for things over the next few weeks to get quite boring, to trade sideways. Yes, for Ethereum, that means, you know, you could have another pop back up towards like 35.50. But at the same time, you know, you're probably going to get at some point a test down around 3,100 or, you know, 3,200 where it's kind of at right now. But seeing as you kind of have tested the bottom end of this channel right here, you know, it's probably setting up for a bounce over these next 5 to 10 days. Again, bounce isn't a reversal or nothing like that, and but sideways price action right here keeps the Bulaw's hopes alive long term. And of course, looking at Ethereum, just the most obvious area to be getting bullish, if it were to be reclaimed, would be essentially this past week's high. So if you see any sort of a closure above there on, you know, a daily time frame, that being about 37.50. Really good sign that that Ethereum probably, you know, is getting ready for the actual breakout, or yet another attempt at least at 4,100. And of course, to the downside, you know, if Ethereum does lose about 3,000, I think the cycle is off for Ethereum if that does happen, and I'll explain why. Because that's kind of like a big line in the sand right here. The monthly time frame. Last month did close as a doji dildo right here, which is a signal of indecision and perhaps even reversal. This month has not had any follow through to the downside from there. So, you know, it's not it's not like a confirmed reversal or nothing like that, just potential. But more importantly, you can see that Ethereum is once again grabbing hold of that red moving average. That's a 5 exponential. And just throughout the full history of Ethereum, similar to Bitcoin and many other major assets, you know, it likes to base off of that red moving average during its trending move. So to the upside, it likes to reconnect with that before having continuation. So you can see several examples right here. And whenever you don't see, by the way, connection, you know, usually it kind of trades sideways until it does reconnect, like you see right here. Anyways, in this case, we can see that Ethereum came all the way down to that this past week. You'd really expect Ethereum to bounce here if it is going to indeed be bullish. If it does, however, trade below last month's low, which is actually 3,100, not only are you going to see... Not only is this going to start to look like an actual reversal, but we'd see monthly stochastic momentum, which is kind of like the last bull hopium that I'm really holding on to for Ethereum, turn down too, because that pivot is at 3,029. So if Ethereum were to close below that number by the end of January, okay, you're going to hear me turn bearish. But until then, this is an opportunity, at least as far as I'm concerned. And of course, just because it's an opportunity doesn't mean it's a certainty, but you have to fucking pick your plays. You have to pick your plays here and there when you actually have something in your favor. And if you are looking at the long term, I mean, I would still look at this as good. Again, with two major caveats. As long as Ethereum is above last month's low and it closes January at least above about 30, let's just call it 30.50. If those two conditions are met, I'm still looking for general upside here. The monthly is in an uptrend. It's just lagging behind everything else, showing relative weakness. Is there anything else that I want to say about Ethereum? Yeah, that's pretty much it for Ethereum. Anyways, moving on from there, we have Solana, also very uninteresting chart in the short term here. Very similar to Ethereum in the short term as well, in the sense that the weekly is forming a major range between 225 to the upside, basically this past week's high, versus 175 to the downside. And as you can see, you get reject from the top side of the range, you come back down, very close to the bottom side of the range now. I do think you're probably setting up for a bounce here, just like Ethereum, or perhaps like XRP as well. But when we go down here to the daily, it can spend a long time within this range. Again, coming to the end of January, which is about 3 weeks away, is like it's not a big stretch or anything like that. So look for things to get boring. Look for range plays to continue to go on like this, something like this, and then perhaps late January, early February, we do see an actual attempt at a resolution. But naturally, that's just going to take some time. You're going to see bounces and pullbacks the whole way through. But just like Ethereum, I would still hold on to some bullish hopium here, as long as Solana remains above the 175 low on a closing basis. And also looking at the monthly look right here, whoops, just drawing down lines, my apologies. All right, there we go. Looking at the monthly look, very fucking redundant, Crown. But more importantly, very similar to Ethereum, right? In the sense that you see it resting upon that red moving average, has not taken out last month's low or anything like that, but it is very fucking close. And just from a trade setup perspective here, now I'm going to be talking theory, so like don't look at this as as what I'm about to say as like an actual setup, but in my experience, if I am going to be trading manually and discretionarily, I look at a setup like this where the invalidation for the sort of direction that I'm looking for is very close to, what would be my entry right now. That is ideal, not because it's guaranteed to work out, but because if it doesn't work out, meaning that Ethereum does come below last month's low, it's a relatively minimal loss than, say, if you're entering like somewhere around here, for Solana, but somewhere around here, where you're essentially in the middle of the range and there's really not really much to be going off of. Your risk is significantly greater, because the point of failure, the point at which the bullish hopium goes away is when you lose this trend. And again, that's your December lows. So anyways, that would be it for Solana. Like not too much to go on top of that. If you're looking for another sort of objective indicator to kind of figure out, when this thing is likely to move, or at least potentially reverse, I wouldn't be entertaining that possibility until the weekly time frame is seeing momentum turn back up to the upside, which is not happening this week, unless if it closes above 240. Obviously, that pivot will move down next week, but I expect that it's going to take a couple of weeks churning about until this comes sufficiently down and we see the pivot come a little bit closer to price action. Monthly time frame as well, similar to Ethereum, but unlike Ethereum, this one in a bit of a weaker position, because Ethereum still does remain in its upside posturing, again, as long as it's above about 3,000. For Solana, that pivot is 202.5, and right now it's trading like healthily below there, about 10% below there. Or close to 10% below there. Now, of course, it's a long month left to go, but that would be a big line in the sand as well for me to say, hey, if this one is still below basically $200 by end of month, I'd have my reservations on it, because if it breaks down, you're looking at 135 to 140, which is a real possibility. Again, if it does break down, I mean, should it even go, closer to like 110? But for right now, it does still look like it's gonna have a chance. At least that's what I'd be kind of leaning towards. My sort of general disposition on this market right now is that for the people who are calling this already a major, massive high, a macro high, the timing is wrong. And that really bothers me because the only thing that's been consistent for Bitcoin over its full history is the timing of cycles and the seasonality, which is something that I didn't used to believe in before. But, data has rearranged that in my own mind. So, people always want to like copy and paste fucking price action from one cycle to the next, or like, hey, NASDAQ did this in 2000. And so Bitcoin's going to do this because this looks the same. It's like, no, that never works. But the time cycles have actually worked. And timing wise, it doesn't really jive too well for crypto putting in a macro high now. I mean, or I guess it would have been in December. I think it's just less likely. So I'm going to continue to err on the side of bullishness, especially as long as the weekly trends remained up, because the weekly trend is everything in crypto as far as long-term direction. Looking at Solana versus Ethereum, I still remain with my top call here. I think Solana is going to be losing out towards Ethereum. However, Ethereum probably loses out towards Bitcoin. So maybe they're all kind of losing a little bit of strength there, but Solana versus Ethereum, I look at this as topped. Yes, we do not have a reversal just yet on the monthly, nor do we even have a reversal officially on the weekly. We do have a lower low, but we do not have a lower high just yet. So on this bounce, I'm looking for this one to pop up somewhere around here, meaning that, Solana probably does gain a little bit versus Ethereum at some point. And, if you see a lower high rejection right here, that would be my sort of like last opportunity to dump that fucking baby and move on. Anyways, last one we'll say for Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin is pretty damn obvious on the 5-day time frame. It's kind of the same shit that we said yesterday. Yesterday we were looking for a bounce off of essentially the lows of this range. We saw a bounce even above about 95,000, so not bad, but still closing the day, pretty much unchanged. And on the 5-day here, which just updated last night, I mean, it is very, 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 very obviously a range with basically the last 5-day high, which is 102,500 or 102,700 if you want to be super exact. Some people get like very mad because a lot of the time I'll just estimate these things and it's like not the exact fucking price, but just this last 5-day high, as long as you're below there, no resolution to the upside, meaning that if you do trade above there, I mean, that is your breakout indication. And of course, this last 5-day low actually going to be acting as a bit of a range low barrier as well, which is 91,200 or so. So, if you see a daily closure below about 91,000 bucks, that does set things up for a bit of a breakdown somewhere around 85 to 88. That's still my last line in the sand for bull market still being on. If Bitcoin starts to close any sort of higher time frame below about 85,000, you're not going to hear me be bullish. You're just not going to hear me be bullish. But that's still well and far away for Bitcoin, and just like all the other ones, I think you're going to see the same shit here on Bitcoin too. Sideways, maybe this next 5-day period you see a bounce all the way up to like 98, maybe even 99,000 bucks. I mean, it's possible here, but I don't think you're seeing a breakout nor a breakdown. And sideways, for the next couple of weeks is going to ultimately favor the BULAs, assuming that you don't see any like major massive breakdowns. So, that's really all that I got for today. The weekly getting the range incredibly well too. Nice rejection off the median and then back down to the 38.2 level. But yeah, ultimately, that's kind of what I'm looking at for right now. I think we're setting in for more or less a boring time. Expect ranges to get tightened here. Expect things to get less and less volatile. And, maybe around end of this month / beginning of next month, we actually see a legitimate attempt at a breakout or a breakdown. And of course for Bitcoin, because I've gotten a bunch of questions about this as well. Looking at the bi-monthly chart, oops, that's not the bi-monthly, that's the quarterly. Quarterly did sell off of the median as well, by the way. But the bi-monthly, I still look at this as, I'm on the wrong one. There we go. I still look at this one as very likely to test the median sometime within this bi-monthly period, which, means anytime between now and end of February. Because I also got a lot of questions about this past week. Okay, maybe not a lot of questions, but just like yesterday you were talking about 114,000 and today you're talking about 92,000. What happened? It's like, listen very fucking carefully, you lobotomized idiot. sorry, but you do have to call a spade, right? February 28th is far away from January 10th. Holy shit. Crazy idea. literally more than a month away. So you can see a pullback. You could even see a move down to $85,000 in the meantime. But by February 28th, I would expect, at minimum, a test somewhere around $114,000. Again, that also aligns with, this cycle generally continuing. And yeah, then we'd come back to it after that. Anyways, that's where I'll leave things for today. As always, want to wish you the best of best. Again, last couple days here for the New Year sale. We won't have another sale until, well, at least another few months. So this will be the last opportunity for a little while. And at some point, I will raise the price on the trade like a quant program. Not much, but I will raise it just to reflect the new AI coming towards that, because, well, that actually does cost me a little bit of money because, anytime someone messages, there is like a certain amount, before you have to pay more, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. Anyways, I'll end things on that note. As always, wish you the best. Take care. Much love. Apologies for the poorly formed insults and banter. It's just for fun. But yeah. We'll come back at it tomorrow with a Q&A session. In the meantime, if you want to join the Q&A session, you can join on Discord, and it is free to contribute. So I'll see you there. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully Sunday.